Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. I am Keith Riddle, as usual, with my co-host here, Jordan Tampien. And today's guest, I'm super excited about, is Blue Stiley, author, writer, speaker. We're going to get into it.
Yes,
So I'm not going to put you in a can here or in a box, but
and a podcaster.
And a podcaster, yes. And you have your own podcast, and we share something in common. We have a Brennan. Yes, a producer, a
the key element
producer.
that makes it work.
Yeah.
But your podcast is called Navigating No.
Yep.
Book here I'm holding in my hand, The Sum of Four. My executive assistant, Joy Wood, actually, I think she reached out to you and requested a book.
She
or
did.
asked if you had a book. And so she's been nothing but raving about it. And excited to have you here.
I'm super excited to be here, too.
So I always start with this question, and I know the answer because we were just talking off camera, but I always start with this question. Spokane local.
Yes.
Spokane native.
Born and raised South Hill. Went to Ferris, and parents were here. They moved up from Santa Cruz. They were hippies. And went to Ferris, and then from here I went to the dark side, and I went over to UW. Yeah.
See, I'm a mead guy, so I would have figured Ferris was the dark side.
No. Ferris was awesome. I loved it. And as soon as I left, they redid the entire school, and it's all beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang it. So was LC. Like when I came back to Spokane, I was like, holy schmoly, they put some money into LC.
Yeah, which was much needed at the time.
Not quite mead. Yeah.
Well, they put a bunch of money in that and started a new school after I left. So I don't know.
They split. Did they
split.
at Mount Spokane or something? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, love to see Spokane people doing amazing things. But tell me a little bit about the Sum of Four and about Navigating No. And we were talking a little bit off camera, but give me the Blue Stiley Reader's Digest story.
The summary of it. Well, I wanted to do international corporate business. I wanted to do maybe international corporate law. And so I went to UW. And I went over there and I did Japanese and international business. And then I transferred to a college in Tokyo. And I did international economics. And when I got back to Seattle, I thought, okay, I'm going to study for the LSAT and the GMAT, and because I wanted to go to law school. And what better way? Because I grew up watching LA Law, and my dad was an attorney, and so I was like, oh, that's the footsteps that I want to follow into. And at the time, I had done martial arts my entire life since I was 8 years old.
Was that part of the desire to go and learn Japanese?
Yes,
your experience
100%. In the 70s and the 80s, everyone thought Japan was taking over the world, and everybody wanted to be a ninja, right? And so I'm not
gonna lie, I had a little bit of that bug in the 80s, right? I feel like, the American Ninja Warriors and all the, all the things.
I loved it. And so I wanted to be a ninja, and I wanted to be able to beat up the bullies that picked on me, right?
Okay.
And so my parents put me into martial arts, and when I was introduced to my martial arts instructor, I had no idea he was going to be the person that changed the trajectory of my life, but that's exactly what he did. And he did it by gaining my trust and making a real and meaningful, genuine connection with me, and then bringing me into his community, which was called a dojo. Yeah. And in that dojo, I was surrounded by other people who were better than me at everything. And they were all willing to make me better as well, as long as I was willing to ask. And so they all made me feel heard, seen, and valued, and like I belonged. And it was the greatest petri dish of people and mentors in my life. And I was,
and that was
getting
here
the
in
best
Spokane.
of the best in Spokane. So I started at the Spokane Police Academy, and then my instructor started a dojo off in Monroe Street. And I just was surrounded by all these people that uplifted me in everything. And the Japanese believe in a mentor-mentee relationship. And so someone takes you under their wing. And I was this 8-year-old stick with lips that was like looking as a sponge to grab anything that I could. And I loved every second of it. And I wanted to be a ninja because if you were a black belt, that was the closest thing you could be to a ninja, right? And so I always wanted to be a black belt. And so I stayed with it, and I was disciplined with it, and I loved it, and I continued on. I was on the all-collegiate team in Tokyo, and then also on the world karate team there. And I came back to Seattle, and I thought I wanted to do that international corporate law. And at the time, one of my friends was like, you should teach martial arts at all the Gold's gyms. And in order to do so, though, I had to become certified as a personal trainer. And so in the first 2 months, I beat every record for sales, both nationally and internationally. Jeez. And I was teaching martial arts out of all the Gold's Gym.
Which is not like a small gym.
No, it's a huge gym. It wasn't Venice, but it was like still like this international thing. And it wasn't because I was a good personal trainer. I was applying the lessons that my instructor had taught me, which was to gain somebody's trust, to make a meaningful and genuine connection with them, and then make them feel like a community or like a part of a family. And this is way before CrossFit, right? Like where everybody goes and they feel like a part of a group. I just naturally did that. And I was just applying the lessons that my instructor did to me.
Yeah.
And I blew it out of the water. Yeah. And I gave up on doing international corporate law, and I found being a martial artist was awesome. And then I was found, as they say, or scouted by a modeling agency, and I got into acting and modeling. I've done that for 25 years. I love it. Awesome. That's just another career of mine. And then, just to skip forward for the book, my martial arts instructor and my dad died in the same 3 weeks. And I started diaring down all the little lessons that they had taught me, how to treat people, how not to treat people, how to act, how not to act, and all of these little confidence building and resistance and resilience and grit. And we talked about that earlier. And just martial arts and the dojo taught me so much about business and about my life and about networking and friends and mentor-mentee relationships. I just started diarying this, and my friends were like, this is a book. This is like a self-help book. And so I got it edited, I got it published, it took off, and then I became a motivational keynote speaker. And so I gave up on the personal training side, and I started speaking from the stage because really, I'm a teacher. Yeah. And every assessment test I was taking as a kid was like, you're going to be a teacher, no matter how I tried to skew it. Like I want to do business, I want to make a lot of money, and I want to do it. And it was not that way. And I was like, oh, I'm always going to be a teacher. Yeah. And ironically, you look back and you're like, I am a teacher now. Yeah. I just teach from a different stage.
Did you ever want to have your own dojo?
I did have my own dojo.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. In Seattle, I had my own martial arts studio, and at my home, I have my own dojo where I teach my kids still. So I don't actively teach anymore. But I started my school over there, and then we would always come back over here to Spokane, and my instructor would train and test my students, and it was just awesome. I mean, I've done it for 40 years.
That's amazing.
Well, doesn't sound like you did much with your life up to that point.
No,
so.
and that was right up to that point, right?
Well, that was at 8 years old.
Yeah. That was it. I started at 8. Being beat up and picked on was the catalyst for me to become what I became, right? And success looks differently for every one of us, but for me, it was just wearing a different T-shirt and being able to pivot.
So I was like a child of the 80s, and I feel like everyone has a little bit of like a bully story in there somewhere because life was just different, right? Like bullying wasn't necessarily even really like shunned. It was kind of like more like learning, earning your stripes.
Coming of age.
Right. Like adults saw another kid getting bullied. They're like, well, happened to me too, right? Yeah. So when you say you were bullied, what do you think was the primary cause of that? Did you live in a rough neighborhood? Did you just not have...
Oh, I lived on the South Hill, man. It was awful.
No, it's pretty rough up there.
For your listeners out of state, the South Hill is a great neighborhood. No, growing up with the name Blue...
Oh, it was your
was
name.
Awful. Oh. Yeah, like people now are like, oh, that's the coolest name. And you know what? It is. Going through life with the name Blue Stiley is amazing. But as a kid, it sucked.
It's true.
It was brutal. I mean, I got made fun of constantly. I got picked on, and then I got bullied, and then I got beat up for it.
Yeah.
It didn't help that I was a stick with lips. Yeah. It did not help that I didn't have a lot of friends. I really liked games and comics and 80s cartoons. So I wasn't like the kid who was invited to the Dungeons and Dragons games or the birthday parties. I was just kind of that outsider kid.
Yeah. You talk about in your book, I think you give some gratitude to your hippie parents.
Oh, yeah.
But then you talk about your martial arts instructor as kind of like a father figure. But did your dad introduce you to your martial arts instructor? So did your dad do martial arts too?
He did. He did judo in college, where he went to Gonzaga, and his instructor was my instructor. Oh, wow. And at 8 years old, I met him at at Cheney at a martial arts studio, or not a studio, at a judo competition. And when I walked in, I had no idea. I got picked on. This kid told me, he goes, I'm going to kill you the next time I see you. And I was terrified at that. So I was like, oh my God, like 8 years old. Yeah. And every day I'd have to walk to school uphill both ways. And I would run into this kid, and I would intentionally avoid him. And if he's listening, I don't know where he's at, but I'm not coming for you. But it was a horrible experience, and I would always try to avoid him. And I didn't know what to do. And my parents were like, well, just walk away. And I'm like, no, I'm running away every time. Yeah. And it was just terrifying. And he was way bigger than me. He was older, and he was a neighborhood kid. And I wasn't the only one that he picked on.
Sure.
And I felt like Mad Max beyond Thunderdome all the time. Like when I was being picked on or pushed by him, all the other kids would go, kill him, rock. I was like, oh my gosh, 8 years old. I was terrified. And so I would always run home, and it was just this awful experience. But my parents were like, if you can't walk away, I have an idea for you. And so my dad introduced me to my martial arts instructor. And when he did that, he took me to a competition at Eastern, and it was a judo competition. I had no idea what I was doing. He just had an idea. And I show up, and I don't know if you've ever been to a martial arts tournament, but it's like in the 80s, you walk in, and it smells like medical tape and like Flexol 454, but it's just like in the Karate Kid, right? My life is like Karate Kid. And so I walk in, and there's all these vendors that are selling like swords and ninja outfits and throwing stars and blowguns. I'm like, this is the coolest, right?
Like that place.
Oh, I wanted my piggy bank so bad to go buy all these ninja toys, right? But they weren't toys; they were like real weapons in the 80s, right? I was like, yes. And so
because they would let kids play with real weapons.
Oh my goodness, yeah,
Good
or
days.
shoot at dogs and stuff. It was like horrible. Remember Roman candles?
Yeah.
And you like shoot the Roman candles at each other. That's the lifestyle. And I loved it. And I walked in, and my dad introduced me to my martial arts instructor, and he came up to me and he goes, "I hear you're having a problem with bullies." And at that time, I was like, how does he know this, right? Like I had no idea that there was a thing called a phone, a rotary. And he told him, and he goes, we'll teach you how to fight and punch and kick, but before I'm going to teach you how to fall.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I do that pretty well already. Like, I mean, it's not that hard. You put one foot in front of the other and you fall down, right? But he was right. I went into the Pacific Judo Academy, which is the police academy here. And when I walked in, I was given a senpai, somebody who's a higher rank, an older student, and he took me under his wing, and I learned to fall for 3 months, like a break fall and a rolling fall and a stop fall and a left fall and a right fall and a hard fall. And it was like, oh my gosh, I was more black and blue than I'd ever been. Yeah. But that became the foundation of learning, like, it does not come easy, and it takes a long time to be a black belt, right? And so that was basically it. At 8 years old, I was just picked on, and that was the start.
Yeah, and it sounds like all those themes from the dojo transcend into life, into business, into relationships. What are some things that they intentionally do in a dojo to create that kind of culture? I think that's a really hard culture to create, even with good friends, of like just that trust. There's just like antitrust sentiment throughout society now. But what are some things that you do, or whether it was taking off your shoes right when you went in to how you warmed up, but were there things you intentionally did when you got to the dojo to build that?
Yeah, so, every dojo is a little different. Okay. Every martial art is a little different. Okay. And all my styles were Japanese style. And so, yes, you would remove your shoes, you would bow when you come in. But that also started, like, I didn't like reading real books, but it was a mentor, one of the people in our dojo, one of the other students, who taught me how to read, right? And it's like, not how to read, but to fall in love with books, right? And then how to learn languages. We had so many different people from Russia or from Spain, and it was like learning all these languages. But I wanted to learn Japanese because that was the ninja culture, right? And so just right away being surrounded by people that knew a lot more, I was like just this sponge. I wanted to learn. And it was this perfect spot for me. But moving in and getting there, we had what's called an ushideshi, which is someone who takes care of the dojo, right? And at that moment, I learned that taking pride in cleaning something that's not yours and not wanting the I guess let's call it the affirmation or something like, congratulations, you did it. You just did it, right? It's like you just are expected to do it because it makes better for the whole. Yeah. Right? It's rising the seas, and everybody prospers from that, because if it's a clean dojo, then your gi isn't as dirty and you don't have to wash it as often. And so it was just these little life lessons that I started to learn just walking into the dojo, right? Cleaning the windows and just making sure the mats are clean. How to take care of your uniform. How to become, I guess, responsible enough to don't forget your gi when you go, right? Because if you don't, then you're working out in sweats, right? And so it was like all of these little life lessons that I started learning at 8 years old, and then how to network and communicate with people. Yeah. How to look up to somebody and realize that even though they're older, even though they're better than you, even though they have more businesses than you, or they've done so much more, they're just you. Yeah. They can be just as everybody's equal. Yeah. And everyone has stories and knowledge and experience. But if you're willing to ask them how they did that, how they got what they did, most people are willing to help you. And that was just one of these great lessons that I learned. And even if I wasn't as good as they were, I just asked. And when I did that, that was one of the biggest things that I learned, is learning the power of a mentor.
Yeah.
And finding someone who's done what you want to do or has done something or has something that you want, just ask them how they did it. And it will shave time and money and pain and the hours off of your life.
Yeah.
When you are seeking out mentorship in your life and you find someone that you think would be a good mentor, how do you go about approaching them?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. And I'll tell you why, because most people, especially younger people, think that, oh, I'm going to try to get an internship with somebody. And I'm going to ask Howard Schultz out for Starbucks coffee, and hopefully he's going to give me an internship, right? And it's like, that's not what a mentor is. A mentor is not someone that hopefully gets you that internship or a job. A mentor is someone who, I believe, understands your weaknesses and sees your value and sees what your strengths are and then uplifts you and shows you how to get it, right? And so I think that when I find somebody who I aspire to be like, I have this acronym that I go by, which is called RELATE, and that is respect, emulation, love, admiration, trust, and empathy. And when you have that kind of combination with another person and it's reciprocated back to you, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah.
That is when you look up to somebody that can really get you to move mountains, do things that you didn't believe that you could do or want to do, and they can bring out your best. And so when I meet people that I respect and I wish to emulate, I'm like, oh, you know, Jordan's done this or Keith has done this. Like, I want that too, right? And if I have a relationship with you, a genuine relationship where I begin to love you and I trust you and I admire you, and then you give that back with empathy and I have feelings for each other and I want you to succeed versus Schadenfreude. And it's like, oh, that combination is what really inspires me and motivates me and gets me to where they are. Right. And so once you have that kind of combination with somebody, that's who I reach out to. And I always ask.
So you would say build relationship with them first, right? Like you see someone that you think that might be a great mentor for me in a certain capacity. So the first thing would be like building relationship
100%.
with them.
Yeah.
And then it's not, well, I guess I'm going with an assumption here, but then at that point, it's not so much of an ask. It's just more of like the relationship. It just happens. Or is there ever like I'm thinking of like a pitch moment. Like,
Well,
Jordan, I got an
let's
idea
do
for
this.
you, right?
Yeah.
Well, what I would say is I believe in like finding your table, right? So my martial arts instructor would go to Second Avenue Grill or Frankie Doodle's and sit and buy somebody a cup of coffee who couldn't afford it or want one and just learn about them and actively listen to them and put himself in their shoes. And I began doing that with people too, because I can learn from anybody, right?
Yeah.
Every one of us has something that I can gain from, and school does not stop the day that you graduate. Right? Life is school. And so how do you continue to grow? You meet new people.
Yeah.
And so finding that table with somebody it doesn't have to be metaphorically, right? It could be, and not literally, it could be metaphorically. Like if right now this table, I'm just getting to know you on that personal level.
Sure.
I'm learning to unravel that layer of that onion and like what makes you tick, what inspires you, what motivates you. But I have to do that by actively listening. And when you connect with somebody, it's like, oh, this person really knows a lot or has a lot of other people that might come to trip the mind and like you're thinking about it. And it's like, what I've always done is everything that I do has to be memorable and valuable. And if you can hit those two things, you become referable.
Okay.
Right. And so if I'm communicating with someone and somebody knows my worth and somebody knows that I've created some kind of memory with them, then that translates to a referral, right? A trusting referral. And so I am the way that I am because of a whole batch of people, right? I mean, think about it for a second. How many people helped you get to where you are?
Yeah.
Was it a mentor? Was it your parents? Was it a coach? Was it an instructor? And so all these people influence us. And it's like when you're meeting with these people, if you're open to that, it's like, oh, that really, really works for me. And I can take these nuggets from each person and keep moving forward and growing as an individual on myself. And so that is basically what I've done. When I find a table, I like connect with somebody. I'm like, what makes this person tick? And then how can I help them? Because I think we're all at the age now where it's like giving back is almost as rewarding as trying to climb that ladder, right? And so when you're talking with people, it's like, oh, this person is in real estate. Okay, well, oh my gosh, I have a friend who wants to buy a commercial business, but he's never done that before. I know who you need to meet. Yeah, I just met Jordan and I met Keith, and I'm like, you need to reach out. You're just top of mind. Yeah. And the only way that I would do that is if I sat down at a table with somebody and got to know them versus a facade like, hey, how are you, Keith? Are you doing good? Okay, good. But I don't really care, right? It's like you have to sit down and actually get to know somebody and know what makes them, influences them, or what's their love language.
Yeah.
Well, I think life gets so busy. I was telling Keith, I think in our last podcast we were talking about this, but it's like one of the few times you're like intentionally listening without an agenda, without something when we're on the podcast. And is that a skill you developed? Were you naturally that way? Because most people don't do that. Right? Most people are waiting to
I think
ask
it can
you the
be
question.
both, right? Like my wife is like an empath, and like I swear, like she's one of those people that like she gets pinned down like a party, right? Like if you go to a Christmas party, like she'll be in the corner,
She'll
like
be the one.
talking, you know.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people tell her everything, right? Like and I'm like, that never happens to me, right? And then I'm like, am I a bad person? I don't know, you know. But it's like, but I think it's both. I think like for me, I like watching her. It's like she's a natural at it, but for me, I've always had to really try, and I think I can think of moments in time and life lessons like Blue's talking about where I learned that. I was like, oh, thank God I had my mouth shut in that moment because I got a huge impact from like listening to this other person or, you know, like just little things happen in life where you realize like, oh, maybe I don't need to talk all the time or be in the front of the room all the time or be leading all the time. And then you start to have those moments where you're like, oh, there's value in shutting up and there's value in active listening, right? Not just listening, but active listening, like showing that you care and asking probing questions and coming from contribution. And then, so then for me, it was like a skill set, right? Like I was like, okay, this is a skill set I need to practice because it's not a behavior that comes natural to Keith. But I see value in it. So then I had to go seek out people like my wife or like Blue and be like, so how do you sit there with your mouth shut the whole time, right? Like, how come you're not just daydreaming, right? Like, but and I'm saying that a little bit in jest, but it is a skill set that I think you, as a person, any person out there listening should really assess kind of like, do you have that active listening as part of your skill set and where would you score it like on a 1 to 10? And then what kind of practice can you put in place around it? Because for me, it's been drastically impactful, but it doesn't come naturally.
Well, and I think everybody wants to tell their story, right? And one thing that I learned as a kid is the most important word to someone is their name, right? Yeah. And so people want to tell you their story. People want you to remember their name. And it's like I was an introvert at the beginning because I was always beat up, right? But then what I noticed is being in the limelight of being in that position where I was picked on and everybody's like surrounding me like in Mad Max, it was like, I felt like in 8 Mile with Eminem where what are you going to say that I haven't heard already from somebody, right? Like I've heard every single like joke on my name, right? A few years ago, this lady was like, what's your last name? Crayon? And I was like, actually, I hadn't heard that one in 40 plus years. I'd never heard that one. So I gave her a box of Crayola crayons.
Respect.
But yeah, it was total mad respect. But it was like I learned like being in the limelight was kind of cool, right? Because if I could come back with a comeback before you did, then I could shame you without physically fighting because I was a weak little stick with lips. It is I believe that confidence is a learned skill. And you do have to practice it. I've become the magnet when I go to parties or anything. Everybody was like, oh, what's the personal training secret that you need to do? How do you get into acting? How do you become a model? How do you write a book? How do they? And everybody wants to know everything, right? And usually what I heard was an anagram from the word listen, which is to be silent, right? So it's just being able to be quiet and listen to somebody and actively listen to them and hear what their needs are, because most people want to word vomit on you and let them talk. And if something like catches, it's like, oh, I have something in common with this person, that something resonates with me, something relatable, and I enjoy my conversation with them. But one thing that I would say that I was always good at is always continuously putting wood or kindling on a fire. Because in a conversation, if I ask you, how are you? And you say, good, our fire's out.
Yeah.
Right? I've always been able to throw the kindling back on and say, how are you? Good. How are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing here? Tell me about yourself. Are you from Spokane? I think that is translated into my podcasting as a host too, because it's like I want to get to know people and I want to know what makes them tick and inspires them, motivates them. And it's just practice. But learning that skill has been so beneficial to me because from the stage, I speak, but when I'm off stage, I hear everybody's story. And it's a time for me to be able to listen to everybody and say, oh my God, Blue, when you said this, it really hit home with me because I didn't realize I had this kind of a relationship with my dad who passed away. Or I didn't realize that my teacher that in third grade really did sacrifice everything for me and would drive me to school. And it's like all of these stories that I hear are awesome, but I would only be able to do that if I listened.
It's good advice.
It's great advice. I think that's often the overlooked part. We always think it's a technical skill or it's something else, but a lot of times it's just sitting and listening.
Well, I notice it the most with my kids too, or with young kids, right? Like so much of it is like, my son gets so excited that he's sputtering, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's just trying to tell you something. Like half the time he forgets what he's trying to tell you in the middle, but
what do you say at that point? Do you say, breathe, relax, think about what you're going to say first? Is that what you do?
Well, yeah, and usually I try to just get down on his level. Like that's something someone taught me along the way too. Like kids were always domineering, they're looking up at us. So I always just kneel down or I'll like put him on my lap, but I'm just like, hey buddy, like that sounds great. Like tell me again, right? Like start over, but it's usually, it's so little to do with the story. Mm-hmm. It's so much to do with, I want dad's attention for 5 minutes. Yeah. Like, I don't want you on your phone. I don't want you like talking over me at mom. Like, I want this, right? This one-on-one. And I can tell you about how the dog's barking or how, my day at school was. But what he's doing is he's like, are you paying attention to me?
100%. 100%. And Brene Brown talks about that, heard, seen, and valued, right? And it's like they want that kind of sensation. But number two, you hit on something that's interesting because one of the greatest takeaways as a kid from the 70s and 80s was Mr. Rogers. Yeah. And what he would do is he would sit down and look eye level at a child. And the most important person was the child he was speaking to at that moment. And that's something that I preach from the stage too, is like, how do you connect with somebody? You find your table and you see them eye to eye. You're not overlooking them, right? Because even adults, and I would want like younger kids and college kids and high school kids to realize, like, just because you're a doctor or you're an officer in a uniform, it's like, they're just you too. So like, they're not above you. Like, talk to them like a normal human being, but they should also speak to you on that normal human being position too. And it's like, it's so interesting when you come down to their level and you meet eye to eye and focus on them. That's that intent listening, right? And another thing that I was going to say is that somebody told me, it's funny as a parent, you start to meet other parents, you're like, what works for you? What doesn't work for you, right? And one of the parents told me, they're like, when you're in the car and they're in the back talking, don't say anything and just listen. Yeah. Even though you're just like dying to jump in and say, oh, I wouldn't do that, right? Like, stop it. You say, actively listen to them. Yeah. And just because you're going to hear things that you never would hear. Yeah. Right? And just be them. Be that fly on the wall.
Yeah. And that's one issue I've had is the more I've started doing, it sounds like obviously you've had a very traveled path as well that way, but it's I almost use like busyness as a crutch. And so then it wasn't that I didn't want to hear you, it was that I have a 15-minute time slot. And so what are some things you do to time manage? Because you seem like a very intense listener. I mean, just meeting you for the first time that way. But it's, I think, too many times we have general intention of that, and then eventually somebody's looking at their phone, looking at their watch. I started like not having my phone in conversations now because it's so distracting, right?
Simon Sinek talked about that. He's like, with your phone, just because it's upside down right here doesn't mean I'm paying attention. No, it's still a distraction. Right. And the iPhones are not the phones, but the Apple Watch. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk to my wife, and it's not. And then they do this the whole time, and you're like, obviously, your mind is going there, right? And it's like you can only focus on one thing. The Japanese believe in you can only focus on one thing at one time, right? And so, like with a child or with somebody that you're interning with, or you're hiring, or you're bringing on, or a customer, or a client, or somebody that you're trying to talk, focus on them, and so. You know that in the end, give yourself a little grace period, but it's like you're going to feel how that's going. And so when I talk with people, it's like, do you do a 30-minute? Do you do a 15-minute? It's like, I just want to give them my time. And if it goes over, there's always an out. Yeah. There's always like at the party, when you're just stuck and somebody connects your time, my wife will come rescue me every once in a while, right? It's like, hey, we got to go or whatever, right? What's the signal? But at the same time, you have to have an out, right? You have to have a way of being able to say like, hey, the perfect example, after my speech, as soon as I'm done and I get off stage, everyone rushes to come and talk to me, right? They want a picture with me. They want to buy my book. They want an autograph. They want to tell me their story. But when you have 30 people in line, they don't want to wait for you to hear the whole story. And so one of the things that I've always been able to do is like, I want to connect with you and I want to hear more about that, right? So reach out to me and let's set up a time that's different so that I can meet everybody else. But it's like you focus on them, you do pay attention, and you make them feel heard, seen, and valued, and respect their time. And so being able to offshoot that and then say, I do want to connect. And you know what? It works every time. Like people will always reach back out and they connect if they really wanted to. And then we make up another time. There's always another time to meet somebody at a different party or to meet them for coffee or to do lunch or play sports with. So that would be my suggestion.
And it's not about like going back to Jordan's question of like being in a time crunch. I find in those moments, it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it, right? So 15 minutes is 15 minutes, but it's a different 15 minutes if I'm active listening versus if I'm not.
Correct.
30 seconds is, right? So even in those brief exchanges that you're talking about, it's like, if I'm deadlocked, looking you in the eyes and you're feeling heard and it's like, hey, I totally appreciate this, reach back out. It's different than if it's dismissive, like, yeah, like reach out to me later, like next, like they want to feel that. And so, I'm always thinking about working with adults like I work with my kids, but in those same examples with my son, it's like, what I find is, and I don't know who told me this, but like something that works great is like, they call it the rule of 20. But if you give an individual child like 20 minutes of undivided attention, that's about the time where they get bored with you, and then they'll like self-play, right? They'll like go play with their trucks.
But 20 minutes of an intent 20 minutes, right?
20 minutes, like not like, yeah, son, while I'm looking at my phone, going, or have the TV on. So like I've actually taught that to his sister, my daughter, who's 12. As she came up the other day, she's like, Dad, it works. She's like, and usually he only needs 15. Right? Like, she started like finally realizing, because he will go poke his sissy forever, right? Like, hey, pay attention to me. Hey, pay attention.
But there's a reason. If we can put ourselves in their shoes, find the table, come down to their level, there's a reason that they want that attention, right? Yeah. And it's interesting that you said that because you said they want to feel, and I don't know if you noticed that when you did that, you reached out to me.
Yeah.
Right. And it's about touch sometimes. And the touch is so important too, because it also means that you're engaging. And so when I'm speaking to someone, it's like, I still shake hands. I mean, the pandemic's over. So shaking hands, and it's like eye to eye contact. It's like touching here. It's not like a dirty touch, but like physically
elbow,
touching.
shoulder,
right. You know, pop somebody. But it's like knowing that you can physically be there because you are present at that time. When you can actually physically touch someone and then make that eye contact, that's so important. And then that really alleviates and breaks down that barrier. Like, okay, I feel that trust coming on. And that's one of the ways to gain that trust.
No, it's interesting. And like I said, transcending that to adults, I find it's the same of when I know I have 10 minutes. Like so when someone comes in, hey, Jordan, you got a minute? And I'll be like, listen, I got to be honest. I've got 8 minutes before I got to get out of here. But what do you need? But then from that transition, what do you need? It is like a very direct eye contact. What's going on? Like, I'm going to listen here for the next 8 minutes that I got, but I'm premising the conversation, right? Yeah. And I think before, Keith would have usually been like, yeah, I mean, I got a couple minutes. What do you need? Right? And it's more like, I'm annoyed that you're talking to me in my last 8 minutes of trying to get out the door. And it's just life lessons, like you just learn that stuff, but they do become magical lessons, right? Yeah. And I think they kind of blend all like around the circle of all the things I think in life that you hear. Like I've heard the phrase a million times, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then you have those pinnacle moments where you realize like you're doing the exact same thing. You're just doing it a little different, but it's making the hugest difference. Yeah. And so it brings to life those cliche sayings that we always have. But I think, like you said, life's your best teacher. And in life, for me, that's when I'm kind of like, oh, that's what they always mean when they say that. Yeah.
Well, they're cliche because they work. Right? Yeah. They do. There's only so many ways to invent the wheel, right? And so they really do work. You can put your own spin on it. You can find what works best for you and find the best way to communicate with a child or a customer or a client or something like that. And I've always called that find your currency or find their currency. And I don't mean monetarily, but like what makes them, what inspires them, what motivates them, what moves them. And if you can find that, that's the answer. For a kid, it might be like playing video games or time with their girlfriend or getting your driver's license. And for us, it might be money or it might be fame or it might be that recognition or it might be that 10 minutes every single time that you and I can talk, right? Like I really look forward to my podcast with Brendan. I really look forward to, for my son, I love playing baseball with him, right? Like T-ball, it brings me back, reminisce back to my high school days playing ball, right? Or with my daughter, she loves Star Wars just as much as I do. So it's like, it's that connection, right? She gets to play with all my old Star Wars figures and stuff. It's pretty cool. So it's like,
it's cool that
it's
you
having those moments. Well, I do have, I do, not the wrapped ones still. I still have the boxed ones, but yes, it's just awesome. And it's being able to spend that 15 to 20 minutes with a child or something. And even when you're talking with somebody that is more of a time crunch, I mean, sometimes I don't know about you guys, but like my wife and I, it feels like we're passing ships too, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, we need to make that time. You need to make it a priority, and we will always make time for whatever is a priority to you. And if it is, you can only burn the candle at both ends for so long, right? And so it's like, you can do something over here, but then you do need to pay attention here. And it's just making that dedicated time and being intentful and purposeful behind what you're doing.
For sure.
Yeah. What are some of those intangibles you have in your life, like from that priority? That was one of the best ones. Me and Keith had talked about it before, but my wife was always the one to suffer the most when things got busy, and then it was health was the next one right after, and then I looked up one day and I'm like, I'm not gonna get out of this in a year. Like, I got to build a solid plan of like what a day looks like, and then I just reversed it, and I was like, well, we're gonna have date night. I'm gonna be at these events, and guess what? Same amount of work got done. Yeah. And I think it's just fallacy to think that you just outwork a problem. Yeah. And I grew up on a farm, so all I ever thought was you could outwork anything. And that was the first situation where I'm like, I can't outwork this. Like, what if this takes 2 years, 3 years? The burning the candle at both ends sounds like a brave, heroic thing, but it's not. Like,
it's tough because that farm life, like I grew up on a farm too, and it's I could say 100,000 good things about growing up on a farm, but if I was going to get to like the few negative, there is this kind of over glamorization of hard work, or like putting the farm first above everything. Right? Above. And while that's like, there's some like honor or nobility, or they can talk about, hey, this is what got us through 1937, or your grandpa slept in a bar. But you try to apply that universally to life, and then I'm like, this is really like unhealthy. Right? Like, if you're always putting your health second or your wife second or whatever, it's like, this isn't great modeling.
No, and what are you modeling for your kids, right? Like the lifestyle that you live, and it is hard. I mean, I remember working out, and my wife and I always make fun of this. We would do 2-a-days, right? Like, you wake up, you do your workout, and then at night you do your workout, and you have to find what you can best control, and that usually is in the morning. That's the time frame that you can take advantage of. But it is finding that balance, and you can do something over here. And I will give a plug to my wife. Like, everybody always says, oh, it needs to be a 50-50. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's an 80-20. Sometimes it's a 99 and a 1%. But hopefully you guys both transition that. So sometimes now I'm doing the 99 and she does the 1. And so it's like, how do I alleviate that from her to make it a less stressful day? But something is always going to sacrifice, because we want to keep growing. And if we mediocrity should not be celebrated. Right? And so we should be growing and we should be learning. But with that comes more responsibility. And with more responsibility comes more things you got to do if you want to continue to grow. Right? And so as long as you're growing at a pace that you feel is comfortable enough that you take care of your health, because I interviewed somebody the other day and they were like, you could have all the money in the world, but you look back and you're like, I'm going to die. What's that money going to do for me? Right. And so being able to take time, smell the roses, as the cliche says, right? And it's like, what are you doing? How do you, I guess let's call this, as a personal trainer, it was awesome. It was like, how do you kill 2 birds with 1 stone? How do you do your cardiovascular, but you still get to enjoy a book? You still get to enjoy a podcast. I love gardening. Well, how do you learn something while gardening? Well, listen to a podcast. I have to drive for work all the time. What podcast are you learning from, right? Alex Hormozy talks about reversing, right? And when you mentioned that, it was funny. It was like, oh, he's talking about like that. But it's like, what can you learn when you're doing 2 things? How do you spend time with your kids and not be on your phone? Be a kid and be active. Like, I love going to the park and playing on the jungle gyms. I'm getting my cardio in, and I'm actually paying attention to my child. Right? But you look around and everybody else is on their phone. You're like, I'm almost 50 years old. I'm still the one jumping up and down and I was called the energetic one at a wedding that I went to the other day. And I was just like, it's so much fun.
Well, it's funny, like wrapping a little bow on this whole thing. Me and Jordan started this podcast. It's called Chestnut Checkers. And I think in my mind, had started with thinking like, this would be a great opportunity to interview high-level people about how they're kind of playing chestnut checkers and these secrets they have. And what's really come of it, and we've touched on this a few times, it's like, it's not these amazing secret things. They just do like the little things different or the little things better, you know? And what I loved about, we were talking a little bit off camera, but what I loved about what you were saying was like, you're like, maybe I'm saying, but it's like, it's a model, right? So your book, The Sum of 4, right? That's Blue's thing, right? Or navigating, like I got my MS4 thing, like there's as examples, but there's only so many ways to reinvent that wheel. They're just a model. So for me in life, what I've always had to do is like seek out, like you're talking about mentors or people, but also seeking out like a model that fits. But I think a lot of times there's like people look at, there's only one model for success or financial reward. There's only one way to raise kids. And it's like, no, there's a million.
Yeah.
But the model is important.
Well, it gives you structure. It gives you discipline,
Structure is important.
Right? And it gives you like a plan, right?
Plan.
And so you found that model with the dojo and with the Japanese, right? It's not the only way to learn those same lessons.
No.
But it was that model that worked for you, right? So I think about that now as I get older. It's like what models am I grabbing onto and what kind of model am I being for my kids? And that model that you're talking about of like playing with your kids is people like, how do I teach my kids to be good people? Well, play with them every day for an hour. You're going to teach them in that process without even knowing you're teaching them.
Yeah, you're getting 2 for 1,
Right.
And you're creating these lasting relationships, like these memories with your parents. I still remember the times that one of my greatest memories is always going to a movie and Chinese food with my mom. Right, like that simple thing. My mom throwing the baseball with me because my dad was absent after I was 12 years old, and it was just like I still remember those little things that she did for me. Plus all the relationships that I made with my dojo, with my mom, and it was just like these amazing things. The book title is The Sum of 4, and basically we all get to 4 differently. Some of us might get there the same way, like 2 + 2 is 4, 2 + 2 is 4. But some people are 5 - 1, some people are 1 + 3, right? There's no right or wrong way of achieving a certain result, destination, or goal. And in math and science, that's called equifinality, which basically means that there's multiple, if not infinite, ways of achieving a certain result. That is life. Like we are all going to play. Chess is a life game. It's not. Let's not even call it a life game. A game. Let's call it life. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a moving thing. You have to be prepared. You have to be able to pivot. No game is going to be the same. Even if you play the same person, it's going to be differently. Every judo match that I had, even if I played the same person, I competed against the same person, luck's not involved. Yeah. It's like, what's that person's movement? What's my competitor doing? And you can have a plan. And I love when Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get hit in the face, right?
Everyone's got a plan to get smacked in the mouth. Yeah.
That's right. Part of the plan is the strategy of knowing that you're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to change. Your pathway is not going to be a straight line. Maybe it is. Maybe you are so lucky that the first major sale as a realtor you wanted to do, you hit the ball out of the park, right? Boom! That's awesome. Most people aren't that way.
It's also sometimes the kiss of death.
Yeah.
100%.
Because you think it was just
Instant
you.
success sometimes is the kiss of death.
I landed my first modeling gig for Levi's, and I got a campaign. That's huge.
It's huge.
I didn't get another one for like 17 castings. I was like, well, I'm glad I did not quit my day job, right? Like, you don't know. So everybody's path is going to be different. And being able to pivot and being able to like bounce back from those challenges and struggles, knowing that every time you come up to a door, and this is that navigating no, right? Like no is, rejection is when people tell you no, and failure is when life tells you no, and self-doubt is when we tell ourselves no.
Say those again one more time.
So rejection, failure, and self-doubt. Rejection is when people tell you no.
Got it.
Failure is when life is telling you no. And self-doubt is when we tell ourselves no, like imposter syndrome.
Love that.
And we're all afraid of it. And we're afraid of it because we've experienced it. We have the scars and the bruises to show it, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are too afraid. It's like the deer in the headlights. I don't want to take chances. I don't want to step outside of my comfort zone because I'm going to be told no. Yeah. I'm going to lose at this. I am told no more times than I ever hear yes, right? I have, but it's a numbers game, and it's learning from those failures that make us stronger in the end, right? And knowing in my mind, this is that mindset, like there is no straight path. If I'm told no today, well, then I'll come back tomorrow and try, and I'll try again in a year, and it's like following up. But there's no straight path.
I think that's one of those chestnut checkers moves that key to success is like not sliding into kind of cynicism and a reason not to have a plan, right? Like I think a lot of people when they start to have that rejection go, well, see, it doesn't matter anyway. Like my plan didn't work. Like what's the point of even making a plan? Like they're going to tell me no. Like they kind of will slide into that. And when you talk to winners, champions, when you just talk to people who are resilient, it's like they look at no as a minor obstacle, right? It's like, how do I get the next no so I can get a yes? You know?
Absolutely.
It's a mindset that I think people have developed. So how do you, as a motivator or as a trainer, coach, anything, how do you get those people, and I say those people, I mean people who have resigned in life or in their career, or maybe with physical fitness? Someone who comes in and says, you're my fourth trainer, but this probably isn't going to work anyway, and blah, blah, blah. How do you start with them?
That's an awesome question, because everybody's path to lose weight, everybody's path to put on muscle mass is going to be different. And to explain that to them right away, you have to control what you can control. Okay, I can't look at other people and compare myself to, let's stick with the fitness. I can't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger unless I do X, Y, and Z, right? I can't lose weight like this person because I don't have the same body type. I don't have the same lifestyle. And so realizing that everybody's path is going to be different. We just have to find the path that works for you. And as a teacher or as an instructor or a coach or a mentor, I take the responsibility to find the way that you can get to it. So like, for example, losing weight, I just have to find the best way for you to do that. Is it cardio in the morning? Is it eating an empty stomach? Is it a specific diet? Is it a supplement that you're missing out on? Is it that 2-for-1 and being able to go for a walk with your dog and with your kids at the same time, or double up? Like finding that way, reminding them that usually it's not in your control. I break it down to it's very simple, okay? Life is pretty simple when you come up with the challenge. And what I mean by that is that most of us know how to get in shape. You move more and you don't eat crappy food. The problem is it's just as easy not to do those things, right? So we procrastinate, we push it off, we rationalize, we kick the can down the curb. And it's like, but knowing that there is something that you can do, then it's up to you to remind yourself that how simple it actually is to do it. And so you have to make it that priority. And so you're in control. You're the one who's in the driver's seat. If it's a priority to you, you will make time to make that happen. And so if losing weight, or if gaining muscle mass, or if starting a business or getting your first business license or getting to your black belt, there's a path to doing it. It might not be a straight line, but just holding their hand and letting them know that there is a way to get there. We just have to find it. And sometimes that's a mentor who helps you, or maybe you find it yourself. Right? For me personally, I always have like a little mantra that I say to myself. And it's like, when I hear that no, when I'm struggling, when I lose, or I'm scared or anything, I hear that no, this person's telling me no, that I don't want to lose because I'm going to be told. I just switch the letters to on, and it's time to move on. So I switch the letters, no to on. And it's like, I've got to move on. And I've got to learn how to do something better. I need to prove to that person that I can do it, prove to the world that I can do it, and prove to myself that I can do it. And it almost inspires me. And so there are certain people, high achievers or Olympic athletes that I've worked with, that they understand that no is just an obstacle. And I interviewed Anna Matteo from Italy, and well, she's from Argentina, but she's the head managing director of Wobi International. And she said, whenever I struggle with anything, it's like a trampoline. It just makes me bounce that much higher. And I love that analogy, right? Like anything that pushes you back, when I get pushed in judo, it's just, what is my reaction going to be? Am I going to fall down and quit and cry and be the victim? Or am I going to get back up, right? And so chess is like judo. It's just that active motion. It's in motion. It's chess in motion. What is my opponent going to do? For every yin, there's a yang. For every motion, for every action, there's a reaction. And it's like, what am I going to do? How am I going to counter that? And how am I going to react? And you are going to get pushed in this world. You are going to get pushed down. How you stand up, how you decide to stand up, or if you stand up, is up to you.
And how do you get them there? Because I think people who've seen, I failed, got back up, and now I'm on the other side. A little easier because you see that other side. But I think when you're spiraling, like one of the things that hurt me the most was I had, call it 8 to 9 years of, I'm going to say, low interest rates, which led to higher profits, a lot of movement in that. And so it was like everything we did got up to like 12 restaurants. We're flipping houses, building buildings. I was like, this is great. And went to my head enough. And I was like, no, even if it goes down, we could still do this. Well, it hit in that first year when it went down. It was like I just started trying to work harder, would work from like 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I'm like, I'll just get this. And what I realized was like when you're spiraling, you don't have any control. Thus, it's spiraling. And the thing that helped me is kind of what you have a good framework here too. But I read something on there. A guy had lost like $4 billion, Phil Ackerman, and he says this thing, and it's basically this concept I use, which is like stacking bricks. He's like, don't try to get to the top of the mountain. Just what are your 3 things today? And it helped, but it was the structure that helped and came in. But I realize and empathize now with people that are in that spiral moment. So how do you get to them at that point? Like
well,
what?
I love that analogy because
We
I
expect
was
you
used
to have
to,
all the answers.
Yeah.
by the
Yes,
way.
and I'm going to
So-
get them.
Your approach is really good, but I have a lot of people approach me that, and
Yeah.
they're like, man, we're losing the play. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And when you're,
and it's like right
if you,
there.
depression,
Yeah.
that feeling,
Yeah.
that loss, like everything's spiraling, the worst hasn't happened to you yet.
Yeah.
Right? That's number one, realizing that your life is not over and you still have a lot to give, right? There are other people who have it way worse than you, number one. Number two, I love your analogy about the brakes because I always used to do logs. Like when you, I got to buy a house, so I've stacked up all of my logs, but now I got to buy a house and I have to have a down payment. Well, all those logs go down. It's like, my logs are gone. Well, no, now it's in a different bucket, right? So how do you continuously grow? You just keep adding sticks to that log, right? And you just keep adding to it, and you're working through it. Knowing that you're not alone, you're not the only person who has lost $4 billion. Well, I've never lost the $4 billion, but you're not the only person who has who's lost a job. Yeah. You're not the only person who's been rejected. You're not the only person who has had their house foreclosed on or had something stolen, or you're not the only person who hasn't been able to do it. Somebody's gone through it before, right? So you're not alone. You're the one who's in the driver's seat, that you can decide whether or not to make those changes every day. Look back and say, what have I done successfully in my life? And look at those as little stepping stones. Every single one of us learned to walk.
Simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if I was crawling first and now I'm walking, that's like this huge 10 times, like 10 times 2, Dan Sullivan, right? And it's like, okay, now I can walk. Now I can run. There are these moments in our life that you can look back on, like, if I've already done it once and I've come back and I've gotten up off that floor, I know I can do it again. It's going to feel like the world is ending right now. But when you look back 5 years, 10 years, you're like, man, I thought that was the end of the world, but it's not. It's not. So mental shift of saying, okay, this is not the end of the world. I can control this. And maybe it's going to hurt. Maybe it's going to suck. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like you can make it through it. Yeah. And if it's a goal that you want to achieve enough, you're not going to quit. And really the only way to fail at something is whether you quit
or not. Yeah.
Or you die. Yeah. It really is. And so when people don't want to get back up, that's quitting. Yeah. Okay. And you can say it however you want to say it, but that's quitting. You can transition. I mean, I can keep trying to become a fitness model in my 60s and 70s and 80s, and I've never gotten it. Maybe it's time to hang it up a little bit, right? But instead of that, maybe I can be a coach to fitness people, right? And you can do something that's similar to it, but maybe not again. Not everybody can be an Olympic gold medalist, right? But maybe you can be a runner-up, or maybe you can start your own studio, or maybe you can start your own group. There's something along the lines, and so make people realize that they're not alone. Somebody else has gone through that. You're not spiraling to death, okay? Because being rejected is way different than being ejected from a plane at 1,000 miles an hour when your face is melting off like an Indiana Jones. Yeah. It is, right? So realize that it's not the end of the world and change your mindset.
And I think a lot of it, I always call it like a mindset shift, right? But when it comes down to it, so much of it is perspective, usually, right? Like it's the first thing when I'm trying to redirect somebody's behavior or attention, it's typically getting them to look at things different. So I always say the mindset's made up of two things. It's how you think and it's the relationships you hold. So if I'm trying to shift someone's mindset or i.e. change perspective, the first thing I'm going to do is either it's like stories, analogies, or get them back in the memory bank of like, go visit that trophy case, right? Like I remember I had a great coach talk to me about that one time. He's like, hey, if you got to go see your trophy case, go look at it. Like there's no shame in that,
there you go.
right?
Exactly.
Like you got one. I know you got one.
You've
like,
done, you have succeeded
whether
at
if it
certain
was your
things.
8th grade T-ball trophy or whatever. 8th grade T-ball. You should be playing T-ball in 8th grade.
You've probably been pretty good.
But it gives you the confidence reminder that you're like, okay, I did do it before.
Yeah.
I can do something again.
Yeah, go get that belief in yourself, however small it is. And then start to, there's a great expression, I think it was Zig Ziglar or Jim Rohn that said it, but it says, change the way you look at things and the things you look at will change, right? And there's so much of that, like, if you feel like a loser, if you feel like it's impossible, if you feel like it's, the wall's too big, then that's how it's going to show up. You're going to lose. It's going to be too big. It's going to be too heavy. So it's that changing the way that you even look at it. And I think a lot of times when people get down and out, they're not even in the mindset of seeing the realm of it possibly working out well. Yeah. Right.
Well, and especially when you see influencers now and they're like, well, they did it and I can never do it. It's like how we talk to ourselves, right? And it's like how you speak to yourself, understanding that it's not the end of the world. I love, and this would be my plug, create a confidence team. Have a support group around you that understands you, that has sat at your table before, or you've sat at their table, that knows your strengths and your weaknesses, reminds you to go look at the table, at the trophies.
Yeah.
Right. You need people in your life that bring you up. Right. And I call it a confidence team. So who's your confidence? My dojo was my confidence team. I had all these people around me that were like, Blue, you could do this. You could do this. You should do this. Like, it's like, wow, that's where everything started to like take off for me. I began to blossom because I had this confidence team. When I wrote my book, I turned it into the editor, and it came back, and it looked like a CSI event had happened. It was like, it was awful. It was horrible. And so I was like, oh, and it felt like this giant punch in the stomach. And the guy was like, you know, you kind of write like a college student. I'm like, yeah, because the last paper I wrote was on the history of Japan, and it was 12 pages, and that sucked too, right? And so it's like, I didn't go to school to write, but my friend was like, do you want to be a writer or want to be a writer? And I go, I want to be a writer. He goes, then change what they did. And he believed in me. He knew my story would be good enough if I changed it, because if the editor didn't understand it, my audience wouldn't. Yeah. So I had to take it in the stomach. I had to take that, and then I changed it and made it a little bit better. And then it came back a little less like it went to a Dexter show, right? And it was like, it came back a little less candy cane every single time, and eventually it became a book. Yeah. And so I had that confidence team. And so having a confidence team, how you self-talk, talk to yourself. Are you in the control seat? Know that it's not the end of the world. Mm-hmm. And to realize, like, if I look back and I see those trophies later, that works for me. Yeah. But you're not alone. And I think that's something else I would want people to know, is that have that support system bring you up, because somebody has gone through that pain before, and realizing that you're not the only one. If they made it through it, I can make it through it.
Yeah, and you build up the story in your head. That was the other thing I did wrong right away too. Was I already anticipated what Blue was going to say about this thing. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I was supposed to pay this back. I'm already playing this out in my head. Well, I hadn't called you. I don't know. And I'm playing out this crazy scenario, and then I call you, and you're like, actually, Jordan, they're fine. Just take a couple more weeks, and we'll get this done. And I spend weeks trying to be like, okay, if I just explained it this way, maybe you won't be as upset. And I was like, how much time did I just waste? Versus just call each person. And hey, if they're mad, they're mad. But at least now we're having a dialogue.
Well, sometimes that worst reality is the one we're creating in our head.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. And because we're our own. I'm really good at creating.
Right. And that's that self-doubt. It's like, how these people are going to tell me no because I'm not good enough. I'm not. I don't have the experience. And you already set yourself up for failure, right? Like if a martial arts instructor at one of our sister schools, I was terrified of this guy. He was this mean. He looked like Adonis, and he was awesome. But he would teach by hitting, right? And so it's like, you got to learn to duck. I did not like that style, but I was terrified of him. And every time he would beat me, and I finally asked him one day, I'm like, well, why do you always beat me? And he goes, I beat you before I walk into this dojo. And I'm like, what? And I had to think about it. And every time I made eye contact with him, I would physically defeat myself, right? And it was like, that was this aha moment for me. It was like, how we talk to ourselves really is important. But then also, he became a part of my confidence team because I could learn from a bad lesson just as I could from a good person, right? And so it was like, I learned something from him. Believe in yourself, because you do have what it takes. And it doesn't matter like what path you're going, but if it is the direction you want to go, there's somebody who's been there before, and you can connect with them and learn from them.
Yeah, I think there's a parallel. I was reading a book the other day. This is solely off, but it was about.
Is it the sum before?
Yeah, right.
After your third read.
No, it was I read a lot of self-help books and a lot of, because that's just my world. I live in it. And but I was reading a book about St. Thomas More. I don't know if you guys. This is a school that my daughter goes to. So I saw this book at a bookstore and like a story, and I bought it. And I was like, I'm just gonna read about this dude's life on a whim. Just weird, right? Yeah. Dude's born in the 1500s. Crazy though, the author opens the book talking about essentially the dude lives and dies his whole life, and she's like, a lot of Catholics think he was a saint, a lot of Protestants think he's like the devil because he lived in that time where there was a lot of whatever. And she's like, and if you actually look at like how he fought King Henry VIII and all this stuff, she's like, really he made zero difference historically. Like he kind of stood up here, but he got his head lopped off, but like this was going to happen anyway, and he didn't really. And so it was interesting. Her whole kind of like perspective was a guy's life who really made no impact and no difference and didn't change a whole lot of anything in the big picture, but yet he lived his life in a way that was inspiring to people to say, irregardless or regardless of the result, I'm going to live my life that way. Mm-hmm. I'm going to live into the passions I have. I'm going to be serious about the things I want to be serious about. I'm going to care about the things I want. Even if I make no difference, even if I fail every time, or even if I see, like, it doesn't change the way I should be living my life, was kind of her take on it. And I thought that was such great perspective, because I don't know, like for me, that was perspective at that time. But I think for so many people, like, we tend to judge ourselves based upon the results and the accolades, right? If we make a lot of money, if we're successful and we win, then it justifies all the behavior, even if a lot of it was poor behavior. I didn't put my wife first. I was mean to people, but I got this thing. And by the way, if you're the best person in the world and you don't get the thing, it's like, well, I'm just a loser, right? Like my life meant, and it's really kind of interesting to be like, it's kind of probably more important about how you live your life, right? Than the result. But society and even ourselves, we tend to weight everything. That scale leans real heavy on the results side of things. Right.
Well, I think that taps into, like, my dad was a great lawyer and everybody loved him, but he wasn't a great dad, right? He was absent from me. He divorced me when he divorced my mom. And it was like, he's this great person, but not a great father, right? And so it's like, what was success to him? And success means something different to every one of us, right? Success for me is being able to pick up my kids at school, having dinner every night, right? So it's like, it doesn't really mean that I have to have this amount of money in the bank account. And it's being able to look back and see that perspective change, because when you have that 10,000 mile view, things look way different, right?
Yeah.
They really do. And being able to live a life that you're happy with and that you're proud of, that every one of us has the ability to influence other people and reach other people and make a difference in this world. And I would say that think back to all these people that have helped you get to where you are and let them know. Like, that's really awesome when somebody calls you and tells you that you made an impact on their life, or something you did or something that they said or that you said helped change their life. That means so much more. And so whether I am dedicating all my time to making money and starting a business and driving and just gritting through it and just like going, I forget about my kids. It's like, no, how do you do all of those things at once? You have to be reminded of what a great job you're doing. Like, and maybe you see somebody else be a dad and it reminds her. There's these little red flags that remind you of, like, I can be a better dad. If that is me watching Mr. Rogers and remembering to get down. If it is podcasting and interviewing somebody or being interviewed, it reminds us, right? The whole thing with me is that I try to remind people how simple it is to actually make real, genuine connections with people and bring our world up. Because I think that we need a lot more of that right now. And it's like being kind to people and putting yourself in their shoes and seeing their perspective is really important. But that is their perspective, perception versus perspective, right? And so how do people see you versus how do you see that, right? And when you look at how people see you, it makes you realize, like, wow, maybe I'm working too much. Maybe I'm doing this. Or how do people see me? Do they see me as a good, idealistic person who has integrity and is kind and is remembered? How am I remembered? And that's that perspective or that perception view. It's like, how do people see you? And it's a good reminder of, like, how to act.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's one of those things where sometimes it's hard to tell too, right?
Yeah, unless you have a confidence team. Right. People who are telling you, and like I have a few friends in my life that will tell me when I'm wrong, and I'm not going to argue with them. I'm not going to like debate with them or have a tantrum right there. It's like, if they say that I'm doing something wrong, I've said something incorrect. My wife is one of them. If they say it, I know for a fact that I've done something wrong, right? And being able to have somebody around you that can call you out on something is important, because it reminds us, like, man, I could do a better job, because we all can do better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We can't. My wife, it's a funny story. We were driving and this guy had his dog in Liberty Lake and it was taking a poop right there on the grass, and he didn't clean it up. And my wife just stopped the car and she goes, "Do better." And the guy was like, and then he went back and he picked up the poop, right? Like we all can do better, right? And it's like, that's like a mantra that I try to say to myself, like, we can all do better. Yeah. And we can lift up other people. We can help other people. And when you do that and it shines and people see who your authentic self is, they will want to help you. Yeah. And they will want to refer you, and they will want to get you business, and you will be first in mind, because I think of all the positive and optimistic people in my life. I'm like, I want to be like that. I want to be that person. I want to be that magnet. But I'm that magnet when I walk into that party or when I walk into a room and people come to me, but I want them to become their own magnet.
Yeah.
I don't want to bounce and to create, and I don't want them to stick to me. I want them to become their own magnet. And that's teaching people, and being that mentor to people.
Yeah, modeling that behavior.
Yeah.
For real.
Well, it is funny, the discussions we have, or even kind of some of the bend of this podcast is, I think Ed Milet says it, but you're most geared to help the person you used to be. And I think some of the stuff I'm going through now and the people I'm kind of helping coach through this side, it's not around how do you buy real estate for a better deal. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same thing of, hey, this is really hard. And I'm like, geez, it is. And you're kind of relating, and it's almost the verbal way of getting down on your knee and approaching at that high level. And it's amazing how many times I could have easily overlooked it and been like, I'll get this fixed, we'll get salt, and then move on.
Suck it up, yeah.
Versus like, man, maybe this was the point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the journey is the point, right?
Yeah.
Like all these lessons and these struggles that we deal with, because we all struggle.
Yeah.
But it's like that's what makes us stronger. That's what makes us learn. Like the first time you travel internationally is going to be better the second time, right? And like the second time I go to Japan is going to be better than the third or the first time. And it's just like we learn and we start to grow our bricklayers, and it makes us stronger. Just like building muscle, right? You tear it down and then you build it back up, and you tear it down a little bit more, but then it gets a little bit bigger. And you go into the gym to fail every single time. How do you see life? Well, I see life as going into the gym and breaking down everything. And whatever it is that I'm doing, how am I going to make it stronger? And the only way to do that is to go through struggles and challenges.
Yeah.
I had a personal trainer for a few years that he was the first personal trainer I had that was his whole,
jacked. Look at you. You look.
He just does it himself.
This was years ago. But his whole there's a name for it, and you might know, but it's like where you do everything to failure.
Well, I guess complete failure. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. But that was his
exhaustion,
kind of like
point of exhaustion. Right?
And I'd never done it. I
you vomit?
hated that, man. I hated that, dude. It was the only time I'd be like scared to go to workouts and stuff. I was like 35, dude. But like when you go there, someone's like, hey, dude, 4 sets of 10 with whatever weight you can do, step it up or step it down. That's the goal. But when someone's like, I'm going to make you lift this, pick whatever weight you want, but you're going to do it until you can't do it anymore. I was like, and it was great, but it was also like, I loathed that, man. Yeah. But it was literally going there to fail every day. And I was like, man, how, like you almost got scared if you felt good.
Yeah.
Going there.
Well, it's
going to take a while
but
today.
That's utilizing your adrenaline, right? Like that's utilizing like those endorphins, and it's like being scared, slightly scared. If you're not scared a little bit, then you're not challenging yourself. And I was terrified of my bully. I was terrified of that instructor. Every time I would step up to the mat and we would do a tournament, I was terrified of my opponent. And the more times I stepped up to that line, the easier it got, right? Because the worst thing that was going to happen is I was going to lose, right? But I was, the whole time I was like, I'm going to fail, I'm going to embarrass myself, I'm going to let my instructor down, I'm going to let my team down, I'm going to look dumb, I could get hurt. None of that happened. Right. It was just either I lost or I won, and sometimes I won. And every time that I won, it gave me a little bit more confidence boost. Every time I lost, I was like, why did I lose? And I would reflect back, like, what did I do wrong? What could I improve? What could I get better? When that person moved? And it was just this learning process along the way. And I don't know. I think that like these lessons in our lives that help us catapult and make us stronger, like, how do you see it? And what are you going to do about it? And how are you going to control your life? Like when you get in that driver's seat, are you going to give up or are you going to keep moving forward?
Well, and when you choose to look at life that way, then it changes that way, right? Like I think you get a little bit more control. I call it thinking without fear. I remember as a young child, my mom would always describe me as like the fearless one. It was like my older brother or whatever, my younger brother, but she's like, oh, Keith, he's my fearless. It never was that I was fearless, ever. It was just that at some point I learned to, like you said, I was a collegiate wrestler, but it wasn't that I wasn't scared. I just learned to not live into that fear. Right? So the fear is still there on match number 100 as it is on match number 1. The difference is I'm not ignoring it. I'm just accepting it for what it is, which is like, this is how I feel right before match starts.
Yeah, you have your
But if I live into
butterflies.
this or let this bother me, right, it's going to affect performance.
Most people, I would say, let it control them. Or they feel like if they dwell on that, they think that it's going to be the end of the world, and it's like the high achievers are able to say, no, what am I going to? It's going to hurt. I'm going to be scared. The butterflies are there, but how do I use that and leverage that?
Yeah.
How do I use that as that catapult or that trampoline to jump up higher? And I mean, I'm still scared.
Yeah.
I'm terrified. Like even street fights now, like I don't fight. Like I'm old and I'm like, I don't want to fight anymore. I'm like, no, because I have responsibilities. I have things to lose now. And it's just like, no way. And so it's a whole different kind of emotions that come into my mind, right? But it's like, we all have those fears. And it's, how do you use that adrenaline to your leverage, right? And maybe you'll lose, but maybe you actually will win. I interviewed one of my Olympic athletes, and he was like, they were trying to get on the Olympic team, and it was their last shot, and they kept thinking, what if we don't get it? What if we don't get it? And he turned to his partner and he said, what if we do get it? Mm-hmm. And that mindset shift right there was just like, what if we do? The best thing that can happen is we get on the Olympic team. Yeah. Right? And it was just that immediate relief of pain. And if we could take that emotion out of ourselves, like when we confront some kind of struggle or we're afraid of something, like what's the worst thing that's going to happen? And if you are okay with that, then go for it. You have to start, right? I have to start a business. I have to go ask for that loan, even though I'm terrified of taking out a loan like that or partnering with somebody. It's like, start. Right? The worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to fail. Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of times the larger fear is on the other side of doing nothing, right? Like, okay,
Abraham Lincoln.
I'm afraid of losing, but the flip side is, well, then just don't wrestle anymore. Like, just quit. Just go home. Just don't play sports anymore. Just don't start anything. Don't hurt anything. And you're like, well, I don't want to do that, right? Yeah. So I think it's all perspective, but I think those life lessons, those cliche things, like those moments those are the change agents, right? Those are the difference between that chestnut checkers conversation, I feel like, is people who they find their model, they find their thing, they find the sum of four, or their sum of four, right?
I'm going to change gears really quick, and I'm going to go back to being a child. All right. And let's talk about this for just a second. When kids are playing sports and you're the parent or you're the coach and they really want to win and they lose the game and you can see it in their eyes and their face and they're just bummed because they really wanted to win. Yeah. And a good coach or somebody will come up to them and say, you tried your best, but don't worry. There will be another game. There will be another opportunity. And it's not, a friend of mine said that it's not about the win, but it's about the fact that there will be another time. Right? If you didn't get that job, there will be another job to go for. And it's that child, that perspective of a child. Like, why can we say that to our kids, but we don't say that to ourselves?
Yeah. Right.
And the reason is we have the scars, we have the bruises, and we're a little more scared and timid. But because we've experienced those. But just look at it like, if you're talking to a kid and say, go, be fearless, challenge yourself. Because if you're not growing. Right? And so think of yourself as you're talking to yourself as a kid and saying, I got this. The worst thing that's going to happen is I might lose the game, but there will be another game. Yeah. Because life is chess, and there will be another game. There will be another competitor. There will be another opportunity for you to do it. There will be another $100 million real estate brand that you can do if you didn't do this, because you already have the skill set and the knowledge and the experience to get that next one. Yeah. Like the people who go bankrupt, they become millionaires again real fast because they already know how to do it. They have a process. They have a plan. Maybe it wasn't luck. Maybe it was a bad move. But at the same time, they learned from it and they can bounce back.
Do it again.
You know what sucks more than losing $1 million? Losing it twice. Get back there faster. I mean, again, it's perspective. And I think when you talk about having that confidence team, I love that. Me and Jordan always talk about having like a board of directors, a personal board of directors. Yes. I love the confidence team twist, though. I see them as different things. Right now, I'm like thinking in my mind of like, who's my Mr. Rogers?
There? Yeah.
I need to find my Mr. Rogers, right? Like, but that is the mentor, right?
Yeah.
Who's that person that gets down on my knees, like my level?
Maybe you're at the point now. Maybe you're at the point now where you can be the Mr. Rogers, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And when somebody sees you be Mr. Rogers, you're like, oh, I want to be that guy as Mr. Rogers. Yeah. You never know when or where you're going to meet somebody that you can change their life or they can change yours. Yeah. It could be the barista, it could be the Uber driver, it could be somebody you interview. You have no idea. Yeah. And if you're living your life always open to creating more of a confidence team and to building that community of people around you, especially people that your network that are bringing you up. Because if you're not bringing your network up and they're not bringing you up, it's time to reinvent your network. Yeah. And you should always be growing. both personally and professionally. And surrounding yourself around those people is so important because they do. But always look for somebody that you can learn from. And because you can learn from anybody, even kids. Kids teach me. You guys know this.
That's where I learn the most.
Here's this AI thing ChatGPT uses. I'm like, how on earth? Like, you think you know? No, they know everything. I won't play video games with my kids anymore. No. Like, no way. It's so fun. Yeah.
I can still beat both mine, but I'm on thin ice,
my daughter's
man.
pretty good.
First of all, I don't let them play much, but second of all, they're young. But yeah. And the other thing is, I think when you look at life, you can learn so much from children and your peers and all this. But the other thing, the elderly, man, the old, like, I know Gary Vee stomps it, but he's like, you want to change your life? He's like, go to a nursing home and have 20 conversations in a week. And he's like, it will change your life, you know? And his big thing is, the majority of them will talk about all of the little cliche things or what they mean or this and that, and the life lessons. But he's like, at some point in the conversation, he's like, it will turn to regret.
Yes.
And he goes, no matter how you talk to 20, 80-year-olds or 90-year-olds, eventually they'll go, you know what? And I should have never said this. I never should have made this mean what it meant. I never should have put my self-worth in this thing. And they will all go to this little place. And he's like, and that's where you really learn the secrets of like, life's short, play hard, like, it's going to end and you're going to be with regrets one day, or you're going to be with stories. So,
well, and that it's the storytelling, right? From the stage, storytelling is like, with my story, somebody can learn something and say, that resonated with me. That was relatable, and that would work for me, or I can learn that, and I need to apply that to my life. And it's through stories. Stories really move people, and to listen to other people's stories, especially like on the podcast, you learn so much. I'm like a sponge all the time when I'm interviewing people. One of my friends, Bert Thornton, who was the CEO of the Waffle House, he said what he did, because he loves the power of mentorship too, and he wrote a book about it. And he said, find somebody 10 years older than you. Ask them what they would do if they were 10 years younger. Yeah. And every time when he gets to that new age, he finds somebody who's 10 years older, says, what would you do if you were 10 years younger? And he learns so much from that. And I mean, he's this wealth of knowledge. And don't be afraid to ask older people for advice. Don't be afraid to ask young people for advice. Don't be afraid to ask that barista for advice. You will learn something from somebody. Yeah.
Well, Blue, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Man.
You're
I feel
so
like we
welcome.
could have this
really
conversation all day. I love it. I love it. And we'd love to have you back. For those of you guys that have not checked out The Sum of Four and Blue Stiley's new book, I'd highly recommend it. Blue Podcasts.
Navigating No.
Check that out. Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
Yep, YouTube.
All the places.
Trying to work those subscribers. I will offer one of your listeners a discount on that. It's called Cobra Kai. I'm a huge Cobra Kai fan. I know a lot of the people on that. We never got into modeling and acting, but I know a lot of the people within Lucasfilm and within different film. I'm a huge Karate Kid fan because I lived that life. Yeah. And so use Cobra Kai on bluestiley.com and you'll get a discount. I can't help that out on Amazon or anything like that. But if you get it from my website, bluestiley.com, then there's this little plug discount for you.
Discount code Cobra Kai. I love that.
Cobra Kai, never die.
Cobra Kai.
I love it. Dude, I love the secondary series too. It just like brings me back. I'm like, I needed this.
Hold on, really quick. Johnny, okay? Johnny, you talk about perspective change and critical thinking. When he's interviewed by his little mentee, his little student, he goes, why do you hate Daniel so much? He came to town, he was the new kid from New York, and he stole my girlfriend, and he embarrassed me, and this. You think Daniel's the bad guy, right? It's a perspective change, right? Like, and it look at life through a different lens because it will change the way that you act and what you do and how you help other people and what you think of yourself.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You guys, thank you.
Pleasure.
All right, you guys, thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.